The earth trembled not from a quake, nor from the weight of its people, but from the presence of two forces that were never meant to collide. One was born of human frailty turned divine inevitability, Cain Marco, the Juggernaut, avatar of Sidorak, a living truth of unstoppable momentum. The other was Kal-El of Krypton, the man of steel, the last son of a world destroyed, the guardian of Earth, Superman. The stage of their confrontation was not mere geography, but existence itself, for their philosophies were bound to crash as violently as their fists. Juggernaut had always been feared not merely for his strength, but for what he represented. He was inevitability incarnate. Once he set his course, not even gods could sway him. His steps tore through mountains, his fists had leveled fortresses, and his essence mocked the concept of resistance. His power was not bound by training, nor by striving, nor by will. It was an absolute decree granted by Sidorak. To fight Juggernaut was not to wrestle flesh and bone, but to resist inevitability itself, to deny destiny. For Juggernaut's existence screamed one lesson: nothing can stop what must come. Superman, however, embodied the opposite pole of truth. His life was not gifted ease, nor inevitability. His very existence on Earth was the product of tragedy, the loss of Krypton. Everything he became was the result of choice, of struggle, of a constant yearning to rise above limits. If Juggernaut was inevitability, Superman was possibility. He showed humanity not what must be, but what could be. He broke chains, not because they could not hold him, but because he refused to accept limits. Every feat, the lifting of worlds, the defiance of death, the overcoming of cosmic tyrants, was rooted not in inevitability, but in will and hope. This clash was not accidental, but inevitable in its own way. Juggernaut sought to prove to the world that inevitability reigned supreme, that all things bowed to destiny, that resistance was futile. Superman, the eternal rebel against cosmic finalities, stood as the answer that no inevitability could chain the human spirit, no destiny could choke free will, no decree of gods could eclipse hope. Their confrontation would not only be a battle of strength, but of meaning. Juggernaut's voice rumbled like the grinding of tectonic plates as he confronted Superman. You cannot win. You represent choice, will, freedom, but all those are illusions. Once I move forward, the end is already written. You can't change what must be. Superman stood tall, his cape fluttering in the fractured winds, his gaze unyielding yet calm. If destiny were truly absolute, Cain, then Krypton's death would have ended me. But I survived, I lived, and I chose to be more than a relic of destruction. Humanity thrives not because it accepts inevitability, but because it dares to fight it. Juggernaut's fists clenched, glowing faintly with Sidorak's crimson energy. Your words are lies of comfort. You fight because you fear the truth. Hope cannot stop a moving mountain. Dreams cannot shatter inevitability. When I march, the world learns what law truly is. Superman stepped closer, his voice carrying not arrogance but conviction. Then let the world see, Cain, that inevitability isn't law, it's a challenge. That no matter how unstoppable you believe yourself to be, there will always be one who refuses to stop trying. Because the moment we stop trying, we lose what makes us alive. The onlookers, gods, mortals, hidden watchers across dimensions, felt the gravity of the argument more than the shaking ground beneath. Juggernaut offered the crushing comfort of inevitability, the idea that nothing needed to be done because outcomes were fixed. Superman offered the fire of possibility, the defiance that even against certainty, struggle was not only possible but meaningful. The stage was set. Juggernaut embodied the philosophy of unchallengeable fate. Superman embodied the philosophy of willful transcendence. Their clash would not simply decide who was stronger, but which truth rang louder through eternity. The air grew heavy, and the first steps toward collision began. The battlefield was a ruined expanse where cities once thrived. The people had fled, leaving only silence broken by the steady march of Juggernaut. Each step was a thunderclap, cracking asphalt and shattering stone. Superman descended from the skies, his cape trailing fire against the wind, his eyes glowing faintly with restrained heat. Neither needed further words, their philosophies had already spoken. Now came the test of truth. Juggernaut charged, his colossal frame igniting with crimson energy, and the ground quaked as inevitability moved forward. Superman met him not with hesitation but with speed, a blur of motion, striking first with 1,000 blows in the blink of an eye. His fists hammered Juggernaut's helmet, his strikes echoing like meteors colliding with a world. The air rippled with force, mountains crumbled miles away, but Juggernaut stood unharmed, his forward motion unbroken. With a roar that split the heavens, Juggernaut swung. Superman dodged, but the sheer shockwave of the blow sent buildings toppling. Superman countered by lifting Juggernaut and hurling him skyward, streaking after him at faster-than-light speed. Together they tore through the stratosphere, breaking into space, their clash scattering asteroids like dust. Yet even in the void, Juggernaut's momentum carried him forward, slamming into Superman with unstoppable might. Superman was hurled through a planetoid, its core erupting behind him in silent fire. The Man of Steel emerged, battered but unyielding, his eyes flaring red. Twin beams of heat vision carved into Juggernaut, wrapping him in solar fury, hotter than a star's heart. The Juggernaut laughed, the flames rolling off him, his march unbroken. He collided with Superman again, his fists ringing against Kryptonian bone, and even Superman felt the sting of magic-infused power. The battle raged across worlds, oceans boiled as their impacts shook Earth's crust. Space itself trembled as their collision sent gravitational waves across galaxies. Superman fought with speed, strategy, precision. Juggernaut fought with inevitability, never tiring, never yielding. Every strike Superman landed bought seconds. Every strike Juggernaut landed threatened the end. Yet amidst the chaos, the deeper truth revealed itself. Juggernaut could not be stopped, but Superman did not need to stop him. He only needed to endure, to adapt, to prove that inevitability was not the same as finality. Juggernaut swung with cosmic force, but Superman shifted, using momentum against him, hurling him through black holes into the cores of suns, across dimensions. Juggernaut always returned, unstoppable, but Superman always rose again, unbroken. At last, Superman carried Juggernaut beyond the veil of dimensions, into the heart of the source wall itself, where concepts and laws faltered. There, even Juggernaut's momentum hesitated for a breath, not stopped but slowed, confused. In that moment, Superman spoke, even as blood lined his lips. "You see, Kane, inevitability may never stop, but neither will I, and the difference is that I fight for others. You fight only for yourself." With that, Superman drew upon the last reserves of his solar energy, every cell blazing like a sun. He delivered a final strike, not to destroy but to hurl Juggernaut beyond the furthest cosmic veil, into realms where his march would take eternity to return. Juggernaut was not killed, nor undone, but displaced. His inevitability stretched across infinities. Superman collapsed, his body broken, yet his will unbroken. He had not stopped Juggernaut, but he had proven the truth. Inevitability may claim to be law, but possibility always finds a way, and in that truth, Superman stood victorious. The universe breathed again. The message was clear. Superman had not defeated inevitability by destroying it, but by enduring it, by showing that hope, will, and defiance could outlast even the unchallengeable. And that was why, when the dust settled, Superman was the winner, not because he was stronger, but because he proved that destiny could be challenged, and that possibility had the last word.